Good morning, everyone. It's Nick from Claret and Booze, and welcome to my daily ramble. This week, it's just going to be me and John carrying you through the daily shows because Gary's got a big week at work, so he'll be back at the weekend, and normal service will be resumed next week. As always, if you're new to the channel and you enjoy what you see, please drop a like on the video. And again, if you enjoy it, why not subscribe? It all helps. It all helps. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today. Take a wild guess. Take a wild guess what we're going to talk about. Everyone's favourite. Well, it's not anyone's favourite subject at the moment. We're all bored with it, but it's kind of an addiction now. It's becoming because it is the only thing to talk about at the minute. Let's face it. Especially with the two games that we've got coming up. Now, I'm going to start with a post on our Facebook group from Mike Brennan, Father Jack, as you will all know him as. And it's a good post, and I agree with it. And he says, I fear Moyes is fast eroding all the goodwill that he's built up over the past two seasons with the fans now. More and more are coming off the fence. Baffling post-match comments and baffling tactics. I worry that we're 2 or 3 games away from an ear cupping. West Ham fans are generally a patient bunch, as 42 years without a trophy would attest. But just ask Mr. Allardyce and Mr. Kirbishley how far negative football will get you when you're not winning. However, I've not known a more divisive manager when it comes to him. There's a lot of meh. No, there's not a lot of meh. It seems people are either vehemently pro or vehemently con. I can't see us letting him go, as we're not in danger of going down. Right, that's the end of the post. So the only bit I don't really, I don't agree with in that post is the last bit, because there is a risk, Mike. There is a risk of us getting relegated. Undoubtedly, there is. We have seen a better team go down. It's so tight. There's a bit of a 13 team relegation battle going on at the moment. The Premier League money has levelled the playing field to such where Nottingham Forest can come up and spend a ridiculous amount of money. And although they're a fucking mess, they can cobble together enough players to go out and spring a few surprises, go and get results. So if you're not playing well, when you're not winning, you're at risk of going down. It's as simple as that. You're never too good. Now, do I think that we will get relegated? No, I don't. I can't see it because, let's face it, it would be some fucking achievement, wouldn't it, to get this bunch relegated? Because on paper, it's one of the best groups that we've had. But look, things are not going well. They're not going well, and they've not been going well for some time. They've not been going well. I'm going to say it again since December 2021. You know, the last great home game was probably that Liverpool game, and then from that, it's spiralled in the league. It's turned to shit, and that's the reason why after 5 games of this season, just 5 games of this season, I wanted to pull the trigger and go because I connected the two. It was a continuation of poor form. I was seeing no improvement, and it was a concern. It was a real concern for me. So yeah, that was why I wanted to do that. But now and the reason I wanted to do that was because with just 5 games gone, that would have given us a great opportunity to go out and attract a top manager. You know, one of the managers that everyone sneers at when you mention their names. You know, Tuchel, Poch. We've just, you know, we're in Europe. We're in a European competition. We've just spent a fortune. We're on the up, so we're an attractive proposition at the moment. But the more of the season that expires, the less attractive we become, and a different type of job that we become. So what I don't want, and this is the thing, as you all know, I do want us to move on from David Moyes. I want a different type of manager that can continue this project. 100%, that is what I want. But do I want to jump from David Moyes for another disaster recovery manager that may save us, might not, but that may save us, and then we're going to be eternally grateful to him and have to reset this again and just stick with him until he fails? It's like a never-ending loop. Not all managers can do all types of jobs. This is a thing. Now, I don't know how any club can be ruthless enough to let a manager go when they're at the top of their game and they've done what David Moyes did. But in the summer, when it was very clear that we had to rebuild, change our football style and bring a load of players in to accommodate that, I believe that somebody in the club should have looked at David Moyes and gone, we're getting the players in, we're spending a lot of money. Is he the manager that can coach this style of football and get the best out of them? That was probably the right time to move on. Say, thanks, Dave, you've been brilliant, mate. Absolutely great. I understand there would have been a lot of knee-jerking. If you look at recent polls that have been run, I know it doesn't represent the whole fan base, but there is overwhelming support for David Moyes. Still, a lot of Moyes in people, albeit you don't hear him in the stadium, do you? Let's face it, it's dead as a fucking door now. So yeah, the risk for me is letting David Moyes go and getting someone else in just like him. I don't. I want us to move on. We're kind of we're at the stage now where we can progress. We can become a bit of a force. I think with the right manager, with the right structure that David Moyes has helped put in place. I'm not dismissing anything that he's done. I'm not. I think he's done a great job. But yeah, he's done part A. We need a different manager to come in and do part B. Continue it on. We might even need to move on past the next manager to get. If we do ever end up getting towards the top, you need different types of managers for it. So the risks for me now is, as I've said, as more of the season expires, the harder it's going to be to get the type of manager that I want. Therefore, if David Moyes wins the next 2 games, let's face it, at that point, I think that proves that we're not going to be at risk of relegation. I think we're going to be fine. We're going to be looking at probably a mid-table finish. We've got the European competitions to look forward to. At that point, as more of this season is going, I'm kind of thinking to myself, do you know what? They're going to do it anyway, but probably is the right thing to do at that point. Just let the season ride out. Let it ride out. If we're not at risk of relegation, the season's shot in the league. We're not going to get top 6 or top 7. Just let it ride out, and then we'll reassess in the summer. Let him go. Then you get your new manager in. The problem comes is if we lose both or one of the next 2 and teams below us get points, which plummets us down before the World Cup break, and we're sort of 16th or lower and still just 2 points off that relegation zone, that is a cause for concern. At that point, I think David Moyes is proving that he is still struggling, and that these big games, which he's next to he's struggling to get results in them. And that's going to be the same throughout all next season. Every game is going to feel like a 6-pointer. We've got to get it. It's a must win. And if David Moyes starts to prove that he can't get points in those games towards the end of this season, I think they're going to have to pull the trigger. I think they've got to. And I don't think it's too late at that point for us to go out after 15 games and get a new manager in. Because if you get a new manager in at that point, we're in the last 16 of European competition. They get a full pre-season. They get a January transfer window to go out and reinforce and get some of their own players in. And we've got more than half a season left. I think that's fine. So 2 scenarios so far. David Moyes wins the next 2 games. We're free from relegation. Keep him till the end of the season and then assess it then. We lose both or one of the next 2 games. We're in trouble. We're still not looking good. We still haven't put a performance in. And we let him go and we move on. We move on with another manager. The worst of all scenarios that I see is one that really scares me, is that David Moyes does struggle in the next 2 games. We don't get results. We lose both. We end up 2 points above the relegation zone. But the board decide we're going to stick with him. We're going to stick with him because he's got credit in the bank. And that's where my cynicism will set in, because at that point I think it's very clear. For anyone that's running that club, it's very clear there is a problem at West Ham at that point. If he struggles to get points from these games, and we're with all that money that we've just spent, we're loitering down the bottom. There is a very clear problem, and if they don't let go of him before the World Cup break, what they're doing is they're allowing the January transfer window to ride. Then they'll get rid of Moyes. Then they'll get another disaster recovery manager in, not a manager that will need money to spend in January and the summer to continue the project. So that would be the worst case scenario for me, because I think if we lose the next 2, then we are at definite risk of having a relegation battle that could see it run to the end of the season. It could see us get relegated. Now, do I think that they will stick with David Moyes at that point, because they've come out and said, if we're in a relegation battle, David Moyes is the right man to get us out of that trouble because he's proved it before? No, I don't think they'll stick with him at that point. I think what they'll do is they'll get past the January transfer window, and if we're still not out of trouble, they'll do the obvious thing, which is get rid of him and get someone else in to save us, because it's rare. I don't know if it ever really happens when a manager gets themselves into this situation, which he would have done. If we end up in the relegation, as well as David Moyes has done, if we end up sort of down there after half the season gone, that's on Moyes. That's on Moyes. All right? And if you're down there and you're in that mess, that means there's problems. It's very difficult for a manager to rectify that issue. It's a different job to what he did when he came in and he saved us from someone else's mess. Well, you come into another situation. You put your arm around a few players. You give them a new lease of life. You can look at a few things that are blatantly off that you can address. And this is different. This is him trying to sort out his own mess. And I don't think it ever really happens. So if there is, with over half the season gone, still a risk of relegation, 100% the board will act. It will be gone. But that will be too late, because then what are they going to do? They're going to go out, they're going to get another bloody temporary manager that ends up permanent. That's as long as he saves us. So let's. What do you think anyway? What would your first of all, do you think we're at risk of getting relegated? Personally, I don't. But what do you think about what I've just said? Does it make any sense to you? I mean, like I say, what are the options again? Let's recap. So the options are he wins the next two, keeps us safe, or makes us look a little bit safe, and we just decide as a club and a fan base, look, let's just go with it. Let's stick it out to the end of the season. Option two, he loses one or both of the next two games. We finish at the World Cup break 2 points above the relegation zone. He gets sacked. We get a new manager in, give him a new pre-season, give him a full January transfer window. We save our season, and we carry on. We push on with the project that's been started by David Moyes. Or do you just show faith in him? If that happens, if he loses both of the next games, do you think it's the right thing for the ball to stick with him until it is beyond any doubt whatsoever that David Moyes can't do the job? By which point our season will be fucked. By which point we can only attract another disaster recovery style manager. Enter, I don't know who, Sean Dyche. That's probably what'll happen. You know, again, would be great in the short term. Short-term fixes that would end up a long-term manager. So, yeah, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section anyway. It's an interesting few weeks coming up. It really is. It's massive. I'm discounting the cup games. I mean, the European game on Thursday is a dead rubber, really. But I'm looking forward to it because we're going to see the kids play in that one, I hope. And the Blackburn League Cup game, yeah, we should win that, but I'm not too bothered about that in a minute. We've got bigger fish to fry in the league. So it's those two league games, massive. He's got it's going to kind of dictate the future. I'm sure it is. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. Let me know whether you're on the fence with Moyes. Whether you're vehemently Moyes in, vehemently Moyes out. What you think should be done, and are we just a couple of weeks away from David Moyes cupping his ears, Sam Allardyce style, to the fans? Because it's starting to feel a little bit like that. He definitely believes his own hype, doesn't he? But yeah, so look, that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll speak to you soon. Coming you ads!